Welcome in, guys. To kick off the tip off, diving into another West Virginia football video this time. Noah, you and I have been definitely enjoying the WVU baseball games and the regional down there in Clemson. Hell of a game last night where they came out with a win. But you got to be real sickos like us to be sitting here on June 1st thinking about both football ideas and just talking football in general, man. So I know we can't wait. And I think in this video today, we're going to focus more on the aspect of what fans can expect from this Rich Rod offense. The past couple of videos, we've talked about Henderson versus Nico, kind of that quarterback battle in that position. And then I did kind of a separate video talking about 10 guys that I think can really impact this upcoming year and break out and help us win a Big 12 title and hopefully even bigger things than that. But today, we'll focus more on the aspect of what can fans expect this upcoming season, because obviously – you look back at last year and even most of the offenses under Neal Brown, a lot of fans were not happy with production, and I think overall just scheme, right? Multiple times you and I were talking about if we're able to kind of know what play is coming on third down or in a key spot in a game, if fans on the couch are able to predict it, then what do you think these guys who are doing it for a living as coaches, game planning and prepping for West Virginia are going to do? So I think that's where we'll start, right? Rich Rod, I give so much praise to him because when the kind of air raid style of offense was evolving in both NFL and college, hey, we'll spread the ball out with the multi-wide receiver set, stuff like that. Rich Rod saw that and said, what if we use that system and just run the ball down your throat the entire game? And my goodness, Noah, has it worked? I mean, even in his first kind of run around with West Virginia, where he was establishing this offense, it has only grown now to the point where we see it now. This past season at Jacksonville State, you look at their offensive stats in general, right? Their tempo is unbelievable. They operate at this blistering pace, averaging a play almost every 20 seconds. It makes it one of the fastest, if not the fastest offenses in the nation, paired with the fact that their running attack was ranked third nationally this past season, averaging 236 yards a game. And when you kind of compare that to what we saw this past season, specifically with West Virginia, it's going to be night and day, both the tempo that we see this offense operate and kind of just the play calling in general. And I think fans will appreciate that from what we've saw in recent years, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're going to get a completely different style of offensive, I guess, mindset coming in with Rich Rod compared to what Neal Brown was. Neal Brown was a little bit of a slower type of guy. Success on early down, setting you up for a good third down play. Where I think, Gage, Rich Rod doesn't even want to get to third down, right? Rich Rod wants to be up in your face, bang, bang, bang. We've got 3 plays off, and the defense doesn't even know what's coming. They're not set for the next play. Rich Rod is focused on kind of big playability. Now, he's not against the 3 yards in a cloud of dust offense. He's not, because he'll do that. But at the same time, he wants big play. Okay, let's hit you with an even bigger play. That's what he runs. His offense is, I guess the best way to say it is an electric offense. Like, he wants to kind of lull you to sleep, but at the same time, all these outside run schemes, the zone read with the quarterback, all these plays are possible to be big plays at any given time because the scheme he runs.
Yeah, and it helps, right? You and I have discussed it multiple times on this channel. You have to have not only a certain quarterback to run his offense, but certain pieces across the entire board. Certain running backs, which he's going to have no problem with this year. Certain receivers who buy into this sort of run system. I mean, think how hard it is from a recruiting aspect, telling a really talented wide receiver, hey, we're going to run the ball, 30 plus times a game. But when you get your opportunity, your job as a receiver is going to be so much easier, because by the time that this defense is stacking bodies in the box to stop this run, that's exactly when he opens up this pass game for these receivers on one-on-one coverage or just softer kind of leverages on the defense, more room for them to work. So from that aspect, it makes it, I think it does make it odd recruiting receivers, but the guys that we have now will have no problem in this offense, specifically for what he's trying to run. And you mentioned, right, the Neal Brown, it's like this. When you look at Neal Brown and the offenses in this past kind of couple years, it's very balanced. Some would say methodical. Us, I mean, just straight shooters, we would say boring. I think we saw way too many just screens on 3rd and 6 or more. He played a style of football that minimized, he wanted to minimize turnovers for one, right? He came out multiple times saying that they want to win the turnover battle, stuff like that, reduce self-inflicted mistakes. When you play that sort of style on offense, we can see at times it's so stagnant to the point where you can't even get any consistency. You can't get anything going on offense because you're too worried about just staying true to, like you said, sometimes it was the, hey, grind out 3 or 4 yards in the run game with CJ Donaldson or something like that, where Rich Rod, these explosive plays, especially in the run game that we're going to see this upcoming year, is going to have Milan Puskar Stadium loud and on their feet the entire time from first quarter to fourth.
Well, and Gage, what you hit on there is something like when you're attempting to reduce, self-inflicted things like turnovers, penalties, anything like that. What you're doing is you're taking the ball out of your playmaker's hands and saying, okay, look, we don't trust you to go get this done. Let's try and get 3 yards, 4 yards, and set us up for a third down. In a sense, where I think of this, I guess, when you look at how the Mountaineers played the past couple years with Neal Brown at the helm, what you needed was a defense that was going to create turnovers. And unfortunately, that's not a defense we've had. The one year we had a very successful season was Beanie Bishop's All-American year, where he's intercepting passes and those type of things. And that's what you're going to need.
Steeler legend.
Yeah. And that's exactly what you need whenever you're going to play that style of offense. And the things, and I think that is a big thing in the Neal Brown era. And I know we're focused on an offense today, but he always spoke about complementary football, and that's something I don't think that West Virginia really ever did in his tenure here. If you're going to be all about offense, come out and be all about offense. If you're going to be all about defense, come out and be. It's so hard. It is so hard to, like you said, recruit receivers if they're not going to, if they're not going to catch 15 passes a game. That's where Rich Rod kind of separates. We're going to recruit a guy that can stock block, a great outside run, and then we're going to hit him over the top. That's where the difference in Rich Rod and Neal Brown is. Where Neal Brown wanted to be this all-around team. Rich Rod knows what he does well. He's going to stay true to what he does well. And then you get an addition of Zach Alley, where Rich Rod isn't going to touch the defense at all. This offense is going to be electric this coming season. And like you said, Milan Puskar is going to be nuts come September 13th.
Yeah, and that's kind of the trickle-down effect from NFL to college. I mean, really, you see it now just coaching in general. It's hard to have these coaches who are kind of right in the middle of both. Well, I kind of work with offense. I kind of work with defense. I kind of do both. Guys like that in the NFL, Mike Tomlin, Dan Campbell, those guys are what they would call game managing head coaches. They focus more on when to use timeouts, when to do this, where they let guys like their coordinators handle the offense. This isn't going to be that sort of, like you just mentioned, right? Zach Alley is defense. When defense gets brought up in discussions, it's on him. I would imagine Rich, he'll take some of the heat if they have a bad performance, just because he's that type of quarterback. He's that type of coach. But that's going to be him. The offense is going to be him primarily, and Travis Tricka, who they brought in, as he says, senior offensive analyst or something. It wasn't even the offensive coordinator role. So this is something that Rich Rod takes major pride in. And I mean, it speaks for itself, right? You talked about the fact that it's been successful from the time it started at West Virginia and has evolved year after year after year to the point where it is now. And he constantly says, I keep growing as a coach. I'm learning things every single year, all that stuff. But the key kind of aspects of the offense don't change, right? We're going to play fast. I think he came out in a quote that exactly said, we want to get off as many plays as fast as we can. We want to make the defense think fast and react even faster and then punish them for it. And then another one, play like your hair is on fire. I believe that was kind of an older quote that he had in his first run around with West Virginia. So it kind of speaks to the volume of the tempo that we're going to see. I kind of keep reinforcing that, but it's going to be so crazy watching play after play after play, where last year specifically, it was like, holy smokes, man, like you're getting lulled to sleep by Neal Brown and kind of the offense that we saw. And I think one more thing to kind of think about, right? West Virginia under the Neal Brown tenure was sort of a run-heavy offense, Noah. Like the big year that CJ Donaldson had, we obviously had Jaheim White. We had talented running backs, and you and I have said before, running back and running in general was never the issue in past seasons. It was that lack of explosive plays and the pass game.
Well, and Gage, whenever you look at it, just go back and watch, just do a little film study. Our viewers, look at what our offense has consisted of. We run the ball, and we ran the ball efficiently at sometimes, but at the same time, when I'm watching C.J. Donaldson on 2nd and 8 running outside zone and Jaheim White's off the field, what's going on here? Or 3rd and 1 and we've got Jaheim White in the backfield. The use of players, and I'm not saying, I don't want to put this all on Neal Brown because there's plenty of coaches down there that could, kind of correct the decision making. But even though, yes, we understand when Jaheim White's in the backfield, people are probably thinking outside zone, trap, those type of things. When C.J. Donaldson, you're probably hitting, dive, those type of things. Even though the other coach can predict that, you have to trust in your playmaker and say, okay, my guy on the field is better than the defender on the other side of the field. He can make a play, he can make a move, and he can get a first down. And that's what you're going to see with Rich Rod. Like you covered in the other video, Jaheim White, I mean, it will be nothing for him to get 250 carries this year. I really don't think so.
No, not at all. I was going to say, too, it drove us crazy to watch the misusage of offensive pieces last year, not only in the running back room, but the wide receiver room too. And Noah, let's be honest about something. Even the misuse of Garrett Greene, right? I don't even think that we got to see his peak as a dual threat quarterback because of the lack of usage from him as a rusher in the quarterback position. I think all the time of like, if we had one more year at Garrett Greene with Rich Rod, now, I'm not saying this in a way of, we don't want Nico or we don't want Henderson. I'm just thinking, right? That sort of quarterback is what he looks for in the style of offenses that he runs. And I don't even think that we got to see his full potential as a college quarterback. And now he's down there catching routes with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin in Tampa Bay. So good for him. But yeah, man, I just think as far as what we're going to see this upcoming year, it's going to be such a difference. It's going to be new. I guess that's the best way to put it, which is good, man. What was happening previously, it was not working, and it was time for a change. And I think we're going to see this Rich Rod style kind of take over and run rampant through the Big 12 in a conference where really, Noah, a lot of the teams that we play are pass heavy. So what's it going to look like when they have to game plan for a team like us where, how do we stop this run? Like, how do we stop a team that's going to say, hey, we're going to line it up our 11 versus your 11, try and stop us?
Well, and I think that's a big thing you hit on there, Gage, with the Big 12 and, where they're all pass-centric. I think that's what the Big 12 has struggled with in general is I don't think a team has really came out and forced an identity upon, the Big 12 and say, okay, we're going to line up and we're going to do this. And I think that's where Rich Rod kind of differs is he's going to go ahead and hit. Hey, we'll come out. We're going to run the ball 30 times a game, 40 times a game if it's working. It doesn't matter. There's going to be an identity in West Virginia, right? And the other team is going to have to stop it because if they don't, Rich Rod will go back to the same play over, and over again. Additionally, whenever you hit on the Big 12 in general, how are they going to stop it? I think Rich Rod's the type of guy, he goes to Zach Alley, who he thinks is a young, innovative mind in college football and says, what do you struggle with when you're attempting to game plan for an offense, on the defensive side of the football? What do you struggle with? And that's where Rich Rod and Zach Alley can make each other better. And I think that's what you saw at, was it Jacksonville State? And I think they were together at maybe Louisiana Monroe for maybe a half a year, maybe.
Half a year, something like that, yeah. Hey, something fun to think about before you keep going. Think about Arizona State this past season. Now, yes, it's Cam Skattebo. Cam Skattebo is not Jaheim White, but I'm just saying a team in the Big 12 last year who dominated and established the run game at all costs. Look at the success that they had in the Big 12 all the way to the playoffs. I mean, like you said, I have to imagine that that Rich Rod is seeing that. And we love Dillingham, right? The head coach there at Arizona State. But if you're talking about people who pioneered this run-heavy offense, Rich Rod is going to be miles ahead of him already as a coach. And I think that, honestly, he can kind of go back and watch films of the way that Arizona State ran the ball on teams and be like, you can see openings just based off of their season this past year.
And Gage, even hitting on that, especially whenever coaches can say that, we recruit the best player available that fits into our scheme. When you're looking at the playoff format, the Big 12 gets one automatic bid. You're recruiting to beat your conference, right? So if all 11 other schools are, pass heavy, I don't want to say 11 schools in the Big 12. I know there's more than that. But when you look at these other schools and they're pass centric, you want to recruit defensive back, linebackers that can get out and cover the pass. That's what you're recruiting at, on the defensive side of the football. Well, like you saw with Arizona State, when you recruit that one way and a team comes in, and that one team a year comes in and they're going to, run the football, run it right up, run it right at you, make you stop it. If you don't have the personnel to come in there, if you don't have a linebacker that's a downhill linebacker, it is tough to stop. Look at Texas this past year whenever they played Arizona State. I mean, it is a very difficult task whenever you don't have the personnel to do what you need to do on the defensive side of the football, especially whenever you're facing a team that is going to be hard-nosed, hard-edge mentality. You're going to have to settle down and play good gap-sound defense, because if you leave a cutback lane open for Jaheim White, it's over, Gage. We know it's going to the house.
And that's what I love about the idea of this upcoming year. It's kind of the old school style of football, right? Establish the run game. This new school style of throwing the ball all over the place we see in the NFL and even the air raid offenses that run through college football. It's nice to see this old school type of offense where we said, right, we're going to win games just because we're more physical than the other team in terms of the trenches and just offense and defense in general. We're just going to be more physical than you and dominate games that way. And one thing I do want to say, no, because you and I, we obviously haven't saw anything in terms of formations that we'll see in this offense. But I think one thing that we'll see this upcoming year for West Virginia offense is the use of motion, right? And we know how important that is in opening up offense in terms of misdirection, just pre-snap kind of movement on the defensive side of the ball. It opens up more lanes in the run game where under Neal Brown, I think we saw some motion, but it wasn't as much as what we can. Do you want to kind of talk about what you think we'll see from that pre-snap motion that will open things up on the offensive side of the ball?
Well, just for our viewers here, I mean, really, there are two kind of different types of motion, and what you're utilizing it for on the offensive side of the football. Either you're trying, to address what the defense is doing, or you're utilizing motion to get that player the ball. With Neal Brown, I think we saw, Rodney Gallagher, these guys come in motion to get the football. What Rich Rod's going to do differently is Rich Rod is going to use these pre-snap motions, pre-snap movements to address what the defense is in. And that's why it's very, very important to have trust in the quarterback to make a different run play call or call his own shot and go over the top. And that's where I think you're going to see the quarterback battle and who can identify these things off pre-snap motions. That's going to be a big piece in the quarterback room, because if we're moving, say we're bringing the H-back in motion and somebody rolls with him, right? We might run a trap utilizing the H-back as the kick block, right? So there are very, very many differences in what we could use the motion for, but I think in Rich Rod's offense itself, it's in utilization of seeing what the defense is in and how our quarterback can either change their play, or Rich Rod himself on the sideline, okay, when we motion this guy's doing this play will work because there's one less guy in the box, one or the other. And I think that's the difference in what Neal Brown did and what Rich Rod did. Is Neal Brown utilized motion for, maybe run a guy out of the backfield for a pass, or use a wheel route out of the backfield, or the jet sweep, where Rich Rod's going to utilize it more in the sense of identifying what the defense is in and how we can exploit a guy less in the box, or man coverage on a slot receiver with a linebacker, those type of things.
Yeah, we spent this entire video talking about the run game, but we obviously know, Noah, at times you're going to have to pass the ball to have success in football in general. So before we kind of end things here, let's talk a little bit about how important a stat, like if we run into a game, and it'll happen this year, where the run game is kind of stagnant, it's just they're stuffing it really good. The importance, and this is where we keep reinforcing the fact of both Henderson and Nico being very good throwers, statistics backing that up. When you have that run-heavy style, you're going to get guys like Cam Vaughn, who's already played in this system, Jaden Bray, who's going to be better in this system because it's going to be more one-on-one coverage, and then kind of I hate saying gadget because it's like less, it feels like a less equal role, but your kind of gadget guys of like Preston Fox, who's a really good kind of possession receiver, I think, like Tyler Lockett, Rodney Gallagher, a couple, Cyrus Straw, a speedster coming from Youngstown, a couple guys that you're high on, Weimer, the guy from UNC. It's like these guys are going to realize we have how much room to work with to get a release off, to get open. Like, it's going to feel so easy for them, where if the offensive line holds up in pass protection, I mean, this is going to open the door for Nico Henderson in terms of both yards and just efficiency. I think we'll see, and this is even back with Tyler Huff this past year at Jacksonville State, days where passing wise, they're going to be 15 for 20 or 16 for 22 and 80% or higher completion percentage for roughly like 200 yards and maybe a couple touchdowns just on explosive plays.
Oh yeah, and Gage, just to piggyback off what you're saying there is a quarterback can be efficient with 20, 25 passes. And as long as he's hitting, he's an accurate quarterback and he's hitting in windows, I think that is exactly what Rich Rod's offense does. And when you're thinking about, and I think this is what Garrett Greene, they didn't, make available for Garrett Greene. Garrett Greene was trying to fit balls in windows when he isn't that type of quarterback, right? Unfortunately, at West Virginia, we don't have Patrick Mahomes, Caleb Williams, these guys that can fit the ball into a window the size of for a hole-in-one in golf. They can do it, right? Yeah. At West Virginia, we don't have that, right? Unfortunately, we're not getting the 5-star guy. We're getting 3 stars, 4 stars. Rich Rod opens windows with the way he spreads his offense. And then additionally, if you have to react to the run, your eyes are in the backfield and, there's a slant come right underneath me as a linebacker or right over top of me as a linebacker. And all he had to do was make a possession catch and we're 8 yards down the field. And that's what Rich Rod's going to do to utilize his playmakers. And additionally, when you have to take a shot, like you said, Cam Vaughn, Gallagher, these guys that are going to go over top and make plays, if that safety wants to watch and keep his eyes in the box, Rich Rod will see that, and you'll get a shot. Even if the pass isn't completed, he'll let that safety know, hey, don't keep on buckling down on the run because we'll go over top of you.
And we'll have fun. We'll have fun betting on this about halfway through the year, this upcoming season, because I saw it with sports books, how they treated the Jacksonville State wide receivers last year. One of the bigger kind of things I can remember, Jacksonville State's bowl game versus Ohio this past season, Cam Vaughn's line yard was like 40 and a half, and they, put a good amount of money on the over. First quarter, like we have just been sitting here talking about, play action over the top, Cam Vaughn's 75-yard touchdown, first quarter cash. So when we're doing our best bets videos for everything in the fall, we'll be hammering that a ton for those West Virginia receivers. And Noah, to wrap things up, we always like to do one of these kind of fun questions, sometimes on topic, sometimes off topic. This one be on topic. I'm so fascinated by Ty Edwards and the role that he's going to play now that Knighton has joined this offense and will probably be RB2 behind Jaheim White, that I was thinking, how is this big bruiser type of back going to get involved in this offense? And it clicked for me last night, Noah. What if he plays the Owen Schmidt role?
Yeah, I was actually thinking about that, Gage, in the sense of if you put 3 guys in the backfield and he's able to be the bruiser back that Owen Schmidt was, and let's be honest, Owen Schmidt is a legend, but Owen Schmidt wasn't the most athletic guy. Even though we watched him hurdle people, I always think about that Syracuse game where he...
You can't have somebody deemed athletic when their nickname was Runaway Beer Truck, and that is absolutely no offense to him. That's just honesty. But we absolutely loved him because he was literally fullback, right? Yeah. Like crazy CTE 100%, lower the shoulder and just kill you basically. But what you're getting ready to say, right? If you have a guy like Ty Edwards playing that role, holy smokes. It'll be interesting to see if he throws him in some sort of that. I would love to see that.
Well, and people don't realize how fast Ty Edwards is. I mean, Ty Edwards is faster than C.J. Donaldson, in my opinion. When you were watching them play football, Ty Edwards is faster than C.J. Donaldson. He has more of a breakaway speed, and I'll die on that take right there. You're going to see it this year. If he gets in the open field, if they follow Jaheim White out on the outside zone and we hit something underneath, hand him the ball off, you're going to see him take one to the house plus 40 yards, no doubt in my mind.
Absolutely. I just hope they find a way to get him the ball. I really liked him. I like when they brought him in. I know a lot of kind of speculation now after bringing Knighton in. So we'll see, man. I hope that they find a way to get him, throughout the season, 50 to 80 carries. That would be absolutely awesome in my opinion. But no, man, unless you got anything else you want to hit on, I think we can wrap this one up.
I think we hit on everything, Gage. If anybody has any questions about, West Virginia football, things you want us to cover, hopefully we can get a defensive philosophy video come out here with Zach Alley. I know we all are very very interested in Rich Rod and this explosive offense, but I think Zach Alley is going to be the underlying success matrix on our side of the Big 12. So
Yeah,
hopefully
it'll kind of be it'll be this kind of sub thing of the season, right? We'll be so happy with the success that the offense has that the defense will kind of be in the back, but it'll be something that we'll highlight for sure. And any chance that I get to talk about Fred Perry, I'm definitely in. So as always, guys, appreciate you watching. And like you mentioned, would love to. I'd have to honestly see if somebody's already doing this, but would love to do something like Mountaineer mailbag or something like that, where we kind of get some questions from you guys, where we can sit down and do a video where we go in depth about your questions. I know I try and get, you and I, whoever is on the YouTube, try and comment back to as many people as possible, but would love to do a video in general, just answering questions. So maybe we'll get on that. Hey man, as always, we appreciate you guys. The countdown is on. I think we're maybe less than 100 days away from kickoff now. So hang tight, stay in there, keep cheering on the baseball team, man. Good things are going to happen. Appreciate you guys as always.